When my girls were younger, we're talking 10 years ago, probably more, they were really into the movie Frozen, as most little girls were at the time. And they were talking about the movie one day, and I sort of rolled my eyes in frustration, and they were surprised that anybody could have anything bad to say about Frozen. Well, I went into detail with them about the themes and the undertones going on within that movie. Rather than completely dismissing me, they were genuinely fascinated and intrigued at the idea that there are things going on beneath the surface in movies, in shows, and stories in general. So, for years after that, after a movie night, the first thing that my girls would do is ask me, Daddy, what's going on beneath the surface in this movie? Sometimes there's something to delve into, sometimes there's not a whole lot really going on. But I genuinely miss those conversations because my girls, they've gotten older. We don't have movie nights as often anymore. So, in that spirit, I turn to YouTube, social media at large to continue this conversation now. What I have done is put together some very random and obscure top 10 lists. There may already be hundreds of these lists out there. I have not consulted any of them for my picks. These are my own unapologetic, unbiased picks for each of these various categories. The first category I wanted to share is the top 10 movie monologues of all time. And so at number 10, I have 10 things I hate about you. Now, what makes this monologue so powerful is two reasons. First is the setting. Julia Stiles delivers this in front of a classroom of her peers. It's not exactly a friendly environment, as evidenced by what the teacher has to say as she's walking up to the front of the class.
Lord, here we go.
And the second and more important reason it's very powerful is that she expresses a sentiment perfectly that I think a lot of people can relate to. I can personally relate to it. That you know somebody that you by all rights should hate, if not completely despise. Somebody you should block from your phone and never think of ever again. But you can't because that person is just too important to you. And it's a very painful feeling. I should hate you, but I can't.
I hate it when you're not around and the fact that you didn't call. But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
So with my number 9 pick, I feel like I need to stipulate again, this is a subjective list. Some of these make the list for personal reasons, even though I can admit objectively there are monologues that are more powerful. But this one makes the list personally because I've heard my younger brother quote it directly, conservative estimate about 1 billion times. Now, in defense of putting it on this list, I will say it is a very good example of a leader commanding respect, in this case, a coach. And it is the halftime speech from Necessary Roughness. So, Philip, this one's on here for you, brother.
He was a 140-pound halfback, and he played like a goddamn wild man. No, like a goddamn rampaging beast. And that's the way you're gonna do it. You go out there, you tear their fucking heads off, and you shit down their necks. Let us pray.
Some of my favorite scenes of all time lay out what motivates a character to do what they're doing. What would motivate a character to go to war or to start a grand adventure? Or, as in the case of Quint's character in Jaws, lay out within just a minute or two, what is motivating Quint to continue chasing this shark in the dead of night with the small boat and the small crew that he has. Now, I think my favorite part of this whole scene is the fact that it ends up with them singing together while half drunk, if not just completely wasted.
So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out. The Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Now, if you follow me in this little venture of mine and my various lists, you'll find that I have quite a passion for the game of baseball. I played from Little League all the way through high school. I don't really follow professional baseball. Nevertheless, several movies and scenes that had a lasting impact on me revolve around the game of baseball. And when it comes to monologues about baseball, there's no way you can beat Moonlight Graham's in Field of Dreams.
To feel the tingle in your arm as you connect with the ball. To run the bases, stretch a double into a triple, and flop face first into third. Wrap your arms around the bag. That's my wish, Rick and Silla. That's my wish.
Now, of all the monologues on my list, I think this one is the most evocative. It's the most poetic. It's the one that has the most heartfelt delivery. And one of the reasons I am so passionate about baseball is that the lessons you learn in baseball, you can extrapolate out to in life in general.
It was like having this close to your dreams. And then watch them brush past you like a stranger in a crowd. At the time, you don't think much of it. You know, we just don't recognize the most significant moments of our lives while they're happening. Back then, I thought, well, there'll be other days. I didn't realize that that was the only day.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear the term movie monologue, my mind instantly turns to Bond villain monologue. And I am quite a James Bond fanboy, Daniel Craig being the best of them by far, in my opinion. But whether you're talking about a Bond villain monologue in particular, or best villain monologue in general, it's the same in both cases, and it's not particularly close. It's Javier Bardem's in Skyfall.
They start eating each other until there are only two left, the two survivors. And then what? Do you kill them? No. You take them and release them into the trees. But now they don't eat coconut anymore. Now they only eat rat.
Of all the monologues that I thought about and considered when putting this together, this one is the most twisted. It's something you would think would come more out of a horror movie than an action movie. And it really gives you insight into how twisted the character is and how he views himself and how he views Bond.
You have changed their nature.
At number 5, I have Daniel Day-Lewis putting on a clinic in There Will Be Blood. Now, the other monologues that I have on this list, they're emotional, they're evocative. That's what makes them powerful, is that you can resonate with them. And this one is very businesslike. Every single word is perfectly pronounced. Everything can be perfectly heard. Don't need the captions on at all. And it's not just what's said, but what's unsaid. It's his facial expressions. It's his body language. It's his frustration whenever the townsfolk start speaking up. And this is just one of those scenes that's on here because you have to sit back in awe watching a master at work.
And this is why I can guarantee to start drilling and to put up the cash to back my word. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what the others promise to do, when it comes to the showdown, they won't be there.
So the number 4 monologue on my list is by far the simplest and most straightforward of all the monologues. And if you were to read, say, a transcript of this speech, you wouldn't think much of it. You wouldn't think it profound or life-changing in any way. It's only in context of everything that happens in the movie that it becomes significant. And it's the speech at the end of Fargo.
And for what? For a little bit of money. There's more to life than a little money, you know.
Now, hearing this, it certainly begs the question of how can this character say with a straight face, after all of this deceit, after all of this death, after all of this violence, not to mention all the damn snow that's piled up everywhere, how can she say with a straight face that it's a beautiful day? Well, the point is, living a decent and honorable life, it's easy to say that, hey, it's a beautiful day.
And here you are. And it's a beautiful day.
We're down to our top 3, and I don't think there's any way you can make a list of great monologues without mentioning a Quentin Tarantino movie. So for my number 3, I have the best scene in the best Quentin Tarantino movie, and that is the watch speech in Pulp Fiction.
Granddad was facing death. He knew it. None of those boys had any illusions about ever leaving that island alive, so 3 days before the Japanese took the island, your granddad asked a gunner on an Air Force transport named Wanaki, man he'd never met before in his life, to deliver to his infant son, who he'd never seen in the flesh, his gold watch.
Now, similar to Quint's speech in Jaws, you get an idea for what is motivating Bruce Willis's character, except his character is doing something even more inexplicable. He's risking everything, knowing that dangerous people are chasing him, for something that is practically worthless. And without that background story, without that backstory, without that context, you don't understand why he's doing it. And this is one of the things I would get in with my girls when it comes to subtext. It's not simply getting the watch. It's preserving legacy. It's redeeming your father. And it's carrying on and making your own risks that are equivalent and comparable to those that came before you.
3 days later, your granddad was dead, but Wanaki kept his word. After the war was over, he paid a visit to your grandmother, delivering to your infant father his dad's gold watch. This watch.
So for the number 2 slot, I have my double up. This is where I squeeze 2 very closely related scenes into the same spot because sometimes it's hard to choose one. And when it comes to monologues from Morgan Freeman, it is hard to choose just one. He has great monologues in Seven, in Shawshank Redemption, in Glory. One of my favorite monologues of his comes from Bruce Almighty. And who better to play the voice and character of God than Morgan Freeman?
A single mom who's working 2 jobs and still finds time to take her kid to soccer practice, that's a miracle. A teenager who says no to drugs and yes to an education, that's a miracle. People want me to do everything for them when what they don't realize is they have the power. You want to see a miracle, son? Be the miracle.
That is one of my favorite quotes ever. It's a beautiful and inspirational sentiment. But my favorite Morgan Freeman monologue of all time comes from an older, lesser-known movie of his called Lean on Me. Now, the reason this strikes a chord with me is because I have a bit of a passion for public education. I've got 3 kids that go to public schools. The one time I got involved in local politics, it was attending school board meetings where they were voting to close down schools in order to free up funding. And I have long since held the view that students get criminally little education for the amount of time they spend in public schools. They are there for 12 years. If they are lucky, they will come out being able to read and write pretty competently. They'll know some math, a certain degree of algebra, but there is little to nothing to speak of in the way of real-world skills or trades. Being able to speak a second or third language, being able to work on a car or know coding, things of that nature. And this scene is all about holding people to account for years of failure in their duties to students. And it's another reason this is so powerful is it is just impossible to fathom this kind of speech being given to any administrators in our current culture and climate.
You know why you're being demoted, Mr. Darnell? Because I'm sick and tired of our football team getting pushed all over the field. Thank you, sit down. I want precision. I want a weight program. And if you don't like it, Mr. Darnell, you can quit. Same goes for the rest of you. You've tried it your way for years, and your students can't even get past a minimum basic skills test. That means they can hardly read.
And that brings us to the best movie monologue of all time. And I'm going to yank the rug out from under you and tell you that I'm saving that for an Avenger-style culmination at the end of this little project, where I unveil my favorite 10 movie scenes of all time. And this movie monologue that I have in mind is one of them, and deservedly so. Please stick around for that. And if you enjoyed this, let me know. Last I checked, I believe I have a whole of 50 Instagram followers, and I'm pretty sure most of them are spam bots. So you can hit me up there or any other social media that I have linked within this video. I will talk to you soon. Thank you.